no-code solutions that empower businesses to thrive without traditional barriers. Hear inspiring stories from tech pioneers and industry leaders who are changing the game. Join us on Tech Bites and transform the way you think about technology and business.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. Today in Tech, a subset of the Tech Bites podcast. My name is Dan Hafner. Got a very, very interesting show for you today. AI is taking over the world, as you have probably already heard a time or two. There is endless amounts of money just being thrown at this industry. It is ridiculous. I'm going to go through some of the really crazy investments that have been made or just over the past week inside of this, with just several companies just gobbling up just asinine amounts of money. It's absolutely crazy. ChatGPT 5, I believe, is now live. There's some crazy things. Like, we are in the middle of a boom that's going on, and I'm here for it. It's really fun. It's really awesome. So yeah, we're going to be very had a good time last night. I got to go golfing with my dad for the very first time. Just on a personal note, it was really fun. That might be why my hair's a little messed up and I'm a little tired, because it was really hot here in Pittsburgh yesterday. But we got to go golfing. I got to take my dad golf for the very first time. It was really awesome. It's a very good reminder to kind of get out there, maybe unplug from a little bit of life sometimes and just have a good time. So yeah, it was a really good time. It was really fun. So I know you may or may not care about that, but I just had to throw that in there as a little tidbit for everyone today. So, all right, today's show obviously brought to you by Dapper No Code. We have a whole cool suite of tools. You can check out our new Gerald AI, which is an AI app builder. If you go to app.dappernocode.com, you can sign up for free. You can use it for free. Obviously, there's paid tiers that you can kind of go and do a little bit more, because AI actually costs money. And I'm assuming all of this stuff costs a lot of money because of all of the funding that needs to be repaid. And we're going to get into that. But if you guys want to check out Gerald AI, it's really cool. I finally landed on a name for it. So go to app.dappernocode.com and you can sign up for free. Get to using it. You get 5 messages per day for free. You can build anything your heart desires. And then obviously, if you want to pay for additional tiers on top of that, you can check it out there. So that is that one. Now let's get into the very first story. So this was actually from a newsletter I got. I get a lot of cool newsletters that I like to come in and share with you guys. But this is historically crazy. There is so much. There's just so much money pouring into this AI world. Like, I'll just kind of go through the highlights with you. So while you were scrolling on TikTok or Facebook last week, the AI world just witnessed the biggest money grab in tech history. We're talking about funding rounds so massive they make the .com boom look like a lemonade stand. I mean, long story short, there was over $160 billion in investment over the past week poured into like 4 different companies. So the first one, our good friends OpenAI, just raised $40 billion. $40 billion, putting their valuation at $300 billion. They say, to put that in perspective, that is more than the GDP of Finland or South Africa or Chile. So an AI company has literally taken on the size of more than countries, entire countries, one company. That's insane. That's insane. And there's actually a very interesting thing to this round. They said that OpenAI has until December 31st to ditch its nonprofit status and go full corporate. If they don't, the whole deal falls apart, which is really interesting, because a lot of the tools that are built, a lot of AI tools that are out there that are built that are custom things, like even Gerald AI is built on top of ChatGPT. And that's an interesting dynamic to keep an eye on. Will they be able to go full corporate? Will they ditch their nonprofit status? Very interesting. Another one. So Mira Murati, who left OpenAI 6 months ago, basically went off and started her own AI company. Like, started building OpenAI, left, started her own thing. It's called Thinking Machines Lab, and they just closed a $2 billion seed round. $2 billion seed round. That's like going to your friends and family and being like, hey, can you invest in my idea? Can you invest in this? Can you invest in that? No, they got $2 billion. That is ridiculous. A 6-month-old company. I mean, my company's almost 5 years old. I've never raised $2 billion. That's insane. I'm in the wrong business, friends. And then Elon, XAI, grabbed a $10 billion investment. Really, really crazy. So far, OpenAI $40 billion. This Thinking Machines Lab $2 billion. Elon when XAI grabbed 10 billion. And then what was very interesting with this one, Mark Zuckerberg actually just bought this company. He bought a 49% stake in a company called Scale AI for 14.3 billion. Which is kind of interesting. I've never heard of Scale AI, but it says without companies like Scale AI, ChatGPT would be as useful as a broken calculator. They're the invisible foundation that makes all this AI magic possible. Interesting. And Meta just locked up nearly half of one of the best data companies in the world. That's not an investment. That's a strategic weapon. It's crazy. It's crazy. So basically, to put all this in perspective, they said, let's zoom out. So the US AI startup funding jumped 75.6% in the first half of 2025. We're talking about 162.8 billion flowing into AI companies. It's a feeding frenzy. It's absolutely wild. Nearly 2/3 of all venture capital money out there is now going into AI. I mean, think about that. Like every other industry is fighting over the scraps, and AI companies are just drowning in cash. They're drowning in it. Like it's I don't even know what else to compare it to. I mean, if that's a bubble, if there ever was a bubble, I mean that's a bubble, my friend. And then this actually leads me into my next story. So it looks like ChatGPT has actually released ChatGPT 5. OpenAI has released ChatGPT 5, which is really kind of interesting. I have yet to really try it and give my honest feedback of it, but let's read through this story. So OpenAI unveils ChatGPT 5 with multimodal AI capabilities. What does that mean? So in 2025, AI chatbots have evolved into highly sophisticated tools that integrate multimodal capabilities and deep contextual understanding, as demonstrated by OpenAI's ChatGPT 5, which processes text, images, and audio to enhance user interaction across education, business, and content creation. Developers are innovating with voice-powered assistants that combine ChatGPT and other AI models to create interactive, human-like experiences, further expanding AI's practical applications. That's pretty wild. Businesses are increasingly replacing traditional rule-based bots with large language model-powered assistants that seamlessly integrate with back-end systems such as CRMs and policy engines, resulting in improved customer service efficiency, reduced call times, and higher sales. The trend emphasizes AI assistants that not only understand natural language, but also complete complex tasks quickly across multiple channels, including voice, to meet users' demands for speed and accuracy. Overall, AI chatbots and assistants in 2025 are transitioning from simple conversational agents to indispensable tools that enhance productivity and user experience in diverse sectors. Wow, interesting, right? Man, I mean, again, I have yet to play around and test, the new ChatGPT 5 stuff. But I was like, okay, what's multimodal? What does that mean? It's going beyond just being a chatbot. It's going beyond just being I can type stuff into there and then it just gives me an output. Even like, hey, make me an image of this thing, and then it gives me an image. I'm sure some of you have actually gotten calls from AI voice agents. It's actually interesting. I got one. I don't know. This was probably a couple of weeks ago, and it was wild because it knew so much about me, and it was able to actually give me like it was like talking. It was literally talking to a robot, but it was giving me stuff that I was actually blown away with the conversation level that this thing was having. Like it's terrifying. I know. I remember even there was another story I was reading somewhere where they said even like Sam Altman, when he was describing ChatGPT 5, he said it was transformative. And for someone who's at that level, at the helm of a business like this, that's pretty insane for him to say something like that. I was kind of interested. I remember using. I'm not on the highest level of a ChatGPT user. I kind of have like their $20 a month one. I don't have the $200 a month one. I tried it for a while because there was a tool called Operator a couple months ago that I had saw and I had talked about on this podcast, and I got to try, and I was actually very underwhelmed with it. I was very underwhelmed with how I would be like, hey, go on and find me some vacation stuff for my upcoming vacation in August. Um, and it performed and it did some things, but I was pretty underwhelmed with it. And I said, well, if this ever gets to a point where it's actually going to be useful and do some stuff, this is really really cool. But I don't think it's really gotten to that place. At least this was several months ago. Now this might be light years different. Now I'm very interested to see where it's come and how it's going. So I will be, definitely testing this. I will give you guys updates, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts if you've got to try the new ChatGPT 5 yet. Um, I think I've just been a little bit underwhelmed with things like that so far. But I really think that with the embedding of all of this stuff into additional tools, like we use a tool, like we said, like Launchpad, which is kind of built on top of a service called Go High Level. And they've integrated and started to embed AI in all these different things. You need an email subject, click here. You need an email body, click here. You need an image, click here. And then there's even the AI employee and stuff like that they have now, which is insanely cool. I really think that I think this is where things are going, where it's not just chatbot stuff. I think that's kind of it's funny to say because it's like, it's still a very useful way to build things, but to just be able for something to talk back and forth with you almost seems like archaic at this point, because there's so many other things that it can do. And it's wild because this has only been like a couple of years since really since ChatGPT and OpenAI have really taken off to this whole new level. So I'm very, very interested to see how these two, with the new funding that they just got, with them going corporate, and then with this new model coming out, ChatGPT 5. Very interested to see where things go over the next 6 months to a year. I think it's going to be an absolute wild show. Okay, the next story I was going to do a different one, but let's stay on the OpenAI. Let's keep picking on OpenAI. So let's go to this story, which is interesting because this is Sam Altman actually talking about, he's warning about ChatGPT therapy. So have you ever like talked to ChatGPT and been like, hey, I'm feeling very depressed today, or I'm very overwhelmed, or I'm very stressed, or I don't know what to do. And then it gives you stuff. I'm sure you probably have used this. I've used this at times like this, because it makes sense to. Here's the story. OpenAI CEO warns ChatGPT therapy lacks legal privacy protections. So be careful what you're telling this thing. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has issued a caution about the lack of legal privacy protections for users who engage with ChatGPT for therapy or emotionally sensitive conversations. Unlike traditional therapists, lawyers, or doctors, conversations with ChatGPT are not covered by legal privileges such as doctor-patient confidentiality, which means that in legal scenarios, OpenAI could be compelled to share these private interactions. That is crazy. Altman highlighted this as a significant privacy risk, especially given the growing trend of younger users relying on AI for mental health support and life advice. OpenAI is currently appealing to a court order from a lawsuit with the New York Times that would require it to preserve and produce user chat data, which the company argues is an overreach that could undermine user trust in AI systems. Altman emphasized the urgent need for new legal and policy frameworks to ensure that AI conversations have privacy protections comparable to those in traditional confidential relationships. Experts acknowledge that while AI has potential in therapeutic contexts, critical thought and regulatory clarity are necessary before its widespread adoption in such roles. This is really interesting because I remember there's been times where a lot of times what I'll actually do is I will prompt, if I go and I read a Bible verse in the morning or a little bit of whatever I'm reading, I always like to, I've started to think, okay, what does the Bible say about this? What does God say about this? And I'll ask it for things, and it gives a really, really interesting scripture backup and a lot of different things that are very useful. And it finds it like that. Like you don't even have to go and find that stuff and flip through all these thousands of pages in a big book like the Bible, right? And then there have been times where I'll be like, hey, like it, you know, I would be very careful about bearing your soul to ChatGPT, because there is a little thing that's called a memory module now, right? It can remember things like, hey, we remember you were actually pretty depressed recently. We remember you were actually pretty stressed recently, whatever the case might be. And you know, that's always the thing they say is if the product is free, guess what? You are the product. And I would not be surprised if there's more, you know, lawsuits just like this or other leaks that come out that say that they've been using your data and your chat, you know, message history to target people, to conglomerate data on you. I mean, AI it's really, it's a scary, interesting thing to kind of be bearing your soul and to be telling your deepest, darkest secrets to, and asking it for, you know, therapeutic type advice. I would be very, very careful about, you know, I've started to be more careful. There were times where I would definitely, you know, be kind of having it walk through, like maybe I was facing a tough situation with a client, or even with my wife or with my family or her family or whatever, and you just have to be a little bit cognizant about what you're telling it, because what you feed the thing is what it produces, right? And it's very interesting to see the dynamic of this, but it's also interesting to see someone like Sam Altman also saying like, hey, we need to actually have frameworks and things in place here. Um, because as a technology producer, someone who builds stuff, that's always red tape that's going to slow you down. That's always something that's going to be like, well, we have to think about this use case and this use case. And what if this happens? And now you got to build all these 47 million things in there that you didn't intend to build in, which is scope creep, right? Um, and that made me think of a really cool idea for a t-shirt. But anyway, I digress. You know, um, I think that, you know, there is, because, you know, ChatGPT, it's a cheaper version of therapy. It really can be, right? Even if you have the free account or you have the $20 a month account, um, what does it cost to go to the therapist? A lot more than that, right? So it can be something where you can say, hey, this thing's going to give me intelligent answers. I'm gonna ask it. I'm gonna ask it this question. I'm gonna ask it for advice on this situation that's going on in my life. Maybe it's an easy situation. Maybe it's a really hard situation. Maybe you're dealing with infidelity, or you're dealing with you know, cheating, or you know, divorce, or things like that. I would recommend restraint. I would recommend some some careful thought about that stuff, because clearly we're in the wild west of this stuff right now. And just because you type something out there on something that you think is, you know, login protected, password protected, you know, there's little things going on in the background that might be stealing some stuff from you, or analyzing, or it's not private, you know. So that's a very, very interesting story I wanted to talk about and kind of think about. So I'm interested on your guys' thoughts. Like, have you ever used ChatGPT as a therapy, or as a therapist, you know, as a therapy session? Have you ever bore your soul to this thing? What did it say? Are you nervous about that now? Do you regret doing that, or was it helpful? I'm very interested in what you guys think about that, because like I said, I've done it at times, and I've also regretted it, but I've also cleared memory on things, so it doesn't remember stuff about me, and whatever. So, um, yeah, it's a very, very interesting. Proceed with caution should be the normal approach, I think, to that one. So, okay, so we'll be done picking on OpenAI now. Let's go to our third story here. So this is an interesting one. This is, again, another thing related to the job market, and it's just kind of about these legal and these tech roles being also augmented and replaced. So AI enhances legal and tech roles without replacing jobs. Interesting. All we hear is replace jobs. It's replacing jobs, right? So this is interesting. So what's this saying? AI is reshaping various professional fields by automating repetitive tasks, thereby enhancing the value and productivity of skilled workers rather than replacing them. Interesting. So it's enhancing rather than replacing. In tech, AI tools are making app creation more accessible and increasing demand for cloud, DevOps, and cybersecurity engineers by augmenting their capabilities. Check out Gerald AI, my friends. That's exactly what I'm talking about. In law, AI acts as a supportive coworker that helps lawyers brainstorm, manage repetitive work, and reduce burnout. With 96% of legal professionals believing AI aids in meeting business goals. 96%. So there's 4% that think it doesn't. I'd be interested to hear what they have to say about that. Similarly, AI powered automation is helping teams across industries reclaim time by reducing inefficiency and fragmentation, allowing them to focus on strategic and innovative work. Despite concerns, software developers emphasize that complex programming and problem solving remain tasks where human expertise is irreplaceable. Overall, AI is viewed as a tool that sharpens professional skills and drives meaningful impact rather than a threat to employment. Yeah, interesting. That one sentence I kind of stressed there. So yeah, this is a perfect example. Even our tool, Gerald AI, it will get you started. It will do about 90% of the app that you're trying to build, right? And it will. But we have found that it also will not always get you 100% of the way if you're trying to do some complex stuff. Like, so for example, this actually isn't a client that we have. So, and I never signed an NDA against this, but I won't reveal anything. But basically what they were trying to do is build some kind of financial app. But it needed to have integrations with Plaid, and you wanted to be able to have your bank accounts and your balances and your bills and your transactions on there, which is totally a doable thing, but it's also pretty complex in terms of setting up that integration in the proper way so it's secure, but it also shows the right information, but it can be removed, and it's just a lot of things. And he had built with our tool basically the entire thing that was like looking really good. It obviously cut down on a massive development fee and time, but the final project was not really doable with the tool because of the complexity of what was trying to be done, right? So as of right now, I think, a lot, and we've talked about this before, a lot of the vibe coding tools out there like Lovable, Replit, even our Gerald AI, they're really good for internal tools, different tools that you're looking to build in terms of simple, maybe not like simple to medium complexity, anything that's like enterprise level that needs to be responsive in terms of like screen size, that needs to have a lot of built-in security, a lot of API connections, a lot of that different stuff. I've really yet to see a really good success case of this. And maybe I'm sheltered and I'm limited, and you guys need to send me some tools that have done this. Or if you are a developer that has done this, I'm very interested to see and learn about it. Because I have really, and this is why this tool is very interesting, because you hear all this talk, all this noise about AI is replacing jobs. It's replacing jobs faster than it's creating jobs. And I think that's true in some sense, but I also think, again, I'm on the side of like, I don't think that it's going as fast as people think it's going, because I have just seen the results of things that it can do about 90% of what you want it to do, maybe 95%, but it won't get you the whole way. And then you're stuck. What do you do then? You still need human input. You still need a developer. You still need a team. You still need like someone with a actual human brain to look at something and have fresh eyes on something. In the world of software development, there's still nothing as valuable as the actual programmer, as the actual person who has experience, who knows what they're doing, who can look at the AI generated code and say, oh, here's the error that AI keeps skipping, right? Or there's actually some vulnerabilities in here that AI might not have thought about, because all it's doing is working on those inputs. It's just going with whatever's input to it that it's outputting, right? And I think that is the next. I think that there's always this push towards AGI, artificial general intelligence. I remain unconvinced because there's one part of being human that I think it's going to be very hard for AI to ever replicate, to be honest, and that is just our human intuition. Our human intuition, our ability to critically think in terms of what we want, what we desire, what we as humans really feel like we want and we need. And I would be very, very shocked if AI can ever get to a point where it really truly understands that. I really will be. I would be shocked because, you know, as humans, we're fickle, we're weird, we're evil, we're good, we're human, we screw up, we do things really well. We're so complex, and it's just how do you program something like that? Like, you know what I mean? For someone out there that might be able to do it, I mean, should you do that though? That's a very interesting ethical consideration. Like, just because you can do something, should you? Right? I don't know. I don't know. It's a very, very interesting. We're in an interesting world. That on one hand, um, there's just tons and tons and tons of money being flooded into these companies to move faster, to build better, to just build these things that are becoming our new foundation of reality, which is exciting, but also terrifying, right? And on the other hand, with all of this money, with all of this attention, with all this brain power being directed at these things, um, are we moving too fast? Are we actually getting ourselves into a pickle, getting ourselves into trouble as a society by building these things without truly thinking about the consequences of what we're doing? I don't know. Um, Building things like a ChatGPT, chatbot, I think are very, very good use cases, have proven to be useful, have proven to be something that is usable and scalable. And I mean, they can have bias and say unethical things, I'm sure, but nothing's perfect. Humans aren't perfect. Um, but then we talked about GPT-5 using multimodal type of things. Is that something that, I think there was a story recently where like Marco Rubio's account was hacked and there was like orders sent on his behalf about like big time foreign relation things that were completely against the policy of the US and like whatever. Like, that's interesting. What if they were able to hack his voice and give authorized orders about different things? Like, you've seen this in the movies, but is this something that could actually be used in real life in the next, it could be used today, it could be used tomorrow, it could be used 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I don't know. I mean, as a technology person, I like moving fast. But I also, a lot of times when we're building stuff for ourselves and also for our clients, is slow down and think a little bit. Like, slow down and actually think about, should we be doing this? Is there a better way to do this? Is there an ethical consideration we're missing? Is there something down the road that if we lay this brick and we cement this thing here, it's going to screw this up down the road? Like, we're bringing on a new client now that we're working with, and I had this talk with her yesterday about, yeah, I think what you're doing is it's useful. It's going to be awesome. But I also want, like, there was things in step 5, 6 down the road that she hadn't even thought about. And when I brought that up to her, it was like, oh, that's interesting. I want to make sure that we are avoiding that landmine before we even start the race. Like, and obviously you don't want to get, that's the whole thing about development, is you don't want to get too far. You don't want to put the cart in front of the horse too far. But it can't hurt at times to do that in certain things, right? Again, we talked about like building the tool. Like, if you build on a platform that's not going to be able to bring you home to something, it's not going to be great. If you're building a law office on tools that might not even be here in a year, that's not a solid foundation, right? That's not a solid thing to actually build on. We always talk, build on a solid foundation. I think Jesus said this himself, right? Build on the rock, and that's what a wise person does. You build on the sand and it gets washed away. And I think this is what really applies in terms of the AI world and technology stuff, is like, if you build on solid things, if you build on, not only, it doesn't even matter the platform, it doesn't even matter the software, it matters the idea, the the way that you're doing it, the thinking through the strategy that you're actually working on, that's really more important than the different tools and the different things, because those are always going to change. Those are always going to be sand-like and wave-like. They come and they go, right? But yeah, this is a very, very interesting time to be in this field and in this world and just be alive. It's wild. Like when I read the newsletter about all of the funding that was going on, I was like, I have to share this because this is absolutely bonkers. I mean, just billions and billions and billions of dollars being dumped into this stuff. And it doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon. I mean, we didn't even talk about all the different, that's private venture capital money. We didn't even talk about government investment in all the energy data centers and all this other stuff. We talked about that one Pennsylvania thing that's happening here with I think there was like 90 some billion dollars or something going into that. I mean, it's wild. It's absolutely incredible. And either we are living in the biggest bubble ever in terms of a market bubble, or we're undergoing the single most transformational time in human history. And I think there's probably room for both. I think both of those could actually be true. I think we could be living through the most transformational time in human history in the current, this now 5-year window, 10-year window. But we could also be in the midst of the biggest bubble ever as well. So I think two things could be true at once. What will happen? Only time will tell. Very, very interesting time to be alive. Very interesting time to be alive. So, all right, guys, that is going to be a wrap on this episode. I really appreciate all of you joining. If you want, I did mention our software Launchpad. Again, I'll put it up here. You can go to app.launchpadproject.net. It has all of the white labeled version of Go High Level in there. If you are a software developer, if you have an app, if you have an app or a SaaS and you don't have any kind of CRM tied to it, use Launchpad. We got all this different AI stuff in there. It's all built on High Level, which is a very well-funded, very reputable company. And then we also provide all kinds of support and all kinds of tools. So you can try that out as well if that's something that you guys are interested in. So that's all, guys. That's all for this episode. I appreciate all of you coming on. We'll be back here Friday. Next week, I'll be out of town. We still try to do the show, but Friday will probably be the last one regularly, at least here inside of the home studio here that we got. We'll be out at the beach next week with my family. We might even do some mobile shows. I don't know. We're going to see what happens. But either way, we'll be coming to you guys. We'll be giving you updates, staying on top of the latest news and business things inside of the world of business, inside of AI, inside of technology, software, the whole 9 yards. So thank you guys so much. And as always, please subscribe and share the show if you do find value or someone else might find value from this. My name's Dan Hafner, and I will talk to you guys next time. See you later.
Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bites, your go-to show for software business and technology. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with our latest episodes, insights, and stories. Hungry for more? Dive deeper into the world of no-code by visiting dapanacode.com. Your journey to building amazing software without coding skills starts there. Connect with like-minded creators and unlock a world of resources tailored just for you.